All right. Hello, Christian. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm also good. So glad to have you on the podcast today. Now, everyone that comes on the podcast has to answer this question. So I'm going to ask it of you as well. Are you
I'm
ready?
I'm a little scared, but
You should be. I'm just kidding. It's not scary. So the question is, what is one character attribute of Christ or the Trinity that has been most evident in your life? Just one.
now when you say character attribute, can you?
So people in the past may have said his patience or his grace, his
Yes.
kindness, things like that. So what have you seen in your life that you can kind of encompass it into one word?
I would say his mercy.
Mm.
Yeah, I've gone. I feel like I've gone through a lot in my life, and he's always shown mercy and forgiveness. Like
Mm.
regardless of anything I've done, any like transgressions, any flaws,
Yeah.
he hasn't just outright punished me all the way.
Yeah, that's good. And I was even thinking about that recently. Like, I think Christians need to focus a little more on mercy because I think everyone's like so grateful for grace, like, oh, I mess up all the time and he just doesn't do
hmm
anything. But I think mercy is also awesome because it helps you make better decisions in the future. Like, he's being very merciful because he can
No,
definitely
absolutely.
punish me
Yeah.
if he wanted to. So I
Yeah, we
think that word,
shouldn't take that mercy for granted at all.
right, right.
Yeah,
So I think that helps us kind of move forward. Like, he's being merciful. Like, what a good God that now my life should reflect the love he's already given me. So
absolutely.
that's an awesome one. Alrighty, so yes, that's the question. But yeah, let's get into the conversation. I actually found Christian. I thought his name was Joel before this
Yes.
conversation. His name is Christian, and he's a Christian. Um, I found him on TikTok actually because he was giving tips to men, and I'm like, you know what? This is all really good stuff. So I was like, everyone on the podcast needs to hear this man. So before we jump into the tips, we're gonna have a little more conversation before, but I want to first kind of define what a gentleman actually is. So for you, what does that look like to be a gentleman?
um, hmm. It can vary, but I think a gentleman is someone who puts a lady first. So, someone who knows how to treat a lady correctly. I see a lot of mistreatment in
Mm-hmm.
the world, just abroad. So, I mean, I actually posted a video yesterday where I spoke on the golden rule in regards to ladies, where it's almost like people will want people will want someone close to them treated like a queen, be that their mother, their daughter, their sister. And the golden rule, of course, is treat everyone as you would want to be treated. But when it comes to ladies, people will expect close women in their lives to be treated in high esteem, but will treat women terribly. So I would
Mm,
say treat women as you would want your mother to be treated, or your daughter, or your sister, or whatever lady is close in your life.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of what a gentleman would look like.
that's really good. Yeah, that's good. And I think there's that disconnect. I mean, I want to say I feel like I hold men that are Christians more accountable because they know Christ and His love for them. So
hmm
when they go out and they mistreat women, it's like, how are you doing this? So I think
Right.
just what you said, kind of helping them understand, like the women in your life, you should also be treating every woman outside of your family that way as well.
hmm
So I think that's good. So what made you decide to like write content for men about being gentlemen? Like you could have chosen so many different topics as a man in the world. Why this one?
um, I see it all. We see it all the time. Content where we joke about toxicity, and um, we hear it all the time in social media and in mass media and music, rap, hip hop, where a lot of it is geared toward mistreating women or
Mm,
not valuing women in high regard or high esteem, and almost just adding women to like, for lack of better words, like a collection.
mm,
And I feel like it shouldn't really be like that, because kind of based on what I just said, if that's the case, one wouldn't want like their mom or daughter or sister as part of some man's collection. They would want them to be valued highly.
mm-hmm.
So with that said, I was like, dang, let's try to switch that narrative and or let's expound on another way on how to treat ladies as opposed to what we see all the time in mass media, which is okay, let's be toxic, let's
Hmm.
be out, let's do everything that we feel like doing, but
Right.
yeah.
And there's some men on TikTok thriving off of just being toxic. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm like, how is who are what's happening?
That's what I'm
So
saying. And I'm like, hey, I'm not knocking any creators at all.
yeah.
But I'm like, okay, you guys are blowing up off the toxicity. I
Hmm.
would rather make content on the other side and see how that does.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go
Because
ahead and knock creators that do that. So you don't have to, but I'll do it because you're a problem. You're a problem. But I did want to ask you, like, what does your kind of analytics look like? Is it mostly men watching, or is it women? Like, is it a combination?
so it's actually because I looked the other day. It's actually mostly women watching.
Okay, I thought so. Sadly,
Yeah.
but
So I looked at the breakdown and I was like, okay, am I actually getting through to any of the men I'm addressing? And it
mm,
was, I think it said 60 to 70% of my viewers and people who like my content are women, and then it
yeah.
was I think 30% men.
Okay, well, we will applaud the 30% right now. We
Yes,
appreciate you
let's applaud
guys.
the
Thank
30%.
you for listening and caring about being a gentleman. But I definitely think, it's a problem that more men don't care. But in a previous episode, he was one of the guys was basically talking about how like um guys who don't want to be gentlemen are not going to look for your page. Like they're just not going to look for it. So that's the hard
This is
part.
true. This is very
And
true,
we were
actually.
kind of just talking about how like at the end of the day, like Christ has to be the one to change their hearts to actually desire that, or like
Hmm.
someone in their life, if they're not Christians. So um
Absolutely, I agree. I feel like change comes from within. So
mhm,
as much as we hear someone wanting to change another person or someone wanting another person to change, that's never going to happen that way. It
right,
needs
right.
to come from within. But one
Mhm.
of my favorite comments that I'll see sometimes on some of the videos is when someone will say, I'm going to send this to him, or I'm going to send this to my brother. I'm going to have my kids watch this, where I'm like, okay, now I know it's spreading to some of the men that I'm trying to reach.
Right, right. And that's awesome. Yeah, so they're still hearing it. It just may not be, the majority, but we got to give credit to the guys that actually do care. So I'm glad that there are
Yes,
still
ma'am.
men there. Um, but personally for you, like, what or like who influenced you the most to see the importance of being a gentleman?
Um, I would probably say my mother and father.
Okay.
Um, my mother, because of course that's the first lady in my life. So with that said, of course I would want to see her treated well, treated respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
And with that said, I mean, the way I grew up, there were certain expectations in my household. For example, I had to tell her yes, ma'am, and do different traditional things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed that a lot of those values that she instilled in me when I left her house, I didn't see anywhere. So, for
Mm.
example, things as simple as saying yes, ma'am to my mom. I would say yes, ma'am to someone else, and they would look at me like I was crazy for even saying that. And it would just be different, like little things like that, where I was like, oh, so like something about my upbringing is like kind of different, or it's not a broad thing that everybody knows about.
Yeah.
And then my father, because of course that's the first man in my life who teaches me, of course, how to be a man, how to
Mm-hmm.
conduct myself as such. So I would say those two.
Yeah. And I think that's good to say. Like a lot of people may not have had this upbringing and they just don't know.
Hmm.
So we can't just be angry at people for being ignorant. I mean, we can be
Oh,
angry, but
absolutely.
we can't stop there.
Well,
um,
yeah.
it's a lot. It's important to teach people. So that's what you're doing. There may be men that literally just never knew what you were taught, and it's just kind of a part of you. So
Hmm.
I think that's helpful for creators too. Just knowing like, you may feel like this is obvious, but for some people, they've never heard it before.
Right.
And I think that's kind of how Christians should approach the gospel too. Like you may think that everyone knows what Christianity is, but you never know if someone's never experienced the true essence of it.
That's a beautiful connection. I love that.
Thanks. That's the Holy Spirit working.
I like how you tied that together.
But yeah, that's really good. And I think what's one of the most important things, like in general, but also in the black community, is having a two-parent household
Mm.
where they both care about you. So I'm not surprised that you had both parents in your home because that kind of lends to people having.
Wait,
Go
so
ahead.
they weren't together?
Okay.
So of course they separated
Okay.
long time ago. But however, they were both present.
Okay. Both present. Yeah. So
Yeah.
not in the same, doesn't have to be in the same household, but two
Right.
present parents. But yeah, that is a good distinction as well. Um, because yeah, it matters the impact that both parents have, especially when they want to teach you the things that they know. So,
Hmm.
alrighty. So the moment you've all been waiting for, we're gonna kind of go one by one with these tips that Christian has for us. But um, I think we kind of talk very broad about, what is gentleman, blah blah blah. I want you guys to actually know exactly what it looks like. So, what is your first tip for the men or just women to know or look for in a gentleman?
Um, I think something that we've gotten away from is ladies first.
Okay.
A lot of a lot of men tend to throw that one to the wayside, but ladies first was always a thing that like I grew up or a concept that I grew up with, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that that should be brought back.
Yeah.
But I do want to put a caveat on that. Ladies first is for things that are enjoyable, such as, for example, like food, or if there's a seat, all right, ladies first, or a doorway, ladies first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, if there's a situation where the environment could be dangerous or you would become a protector, then you go first. So
Mm-hmm.
you scope out the scene, make sure everything's okay before she steps into something that could potentially be dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
one.
And you know what? As you said that, I just remembered like people really do say that like chivalry is dead. How
I
do you
know.
feel about that? How do you feel about that phrase?
um, it's kind of saddening because the fact that such a small amount of men actually practice chivalry nowadays, that people
Mm-hmm.
are like saying that chivalry is dead. I feel
Yeah,
like it needs to be brought back to
for
life.
sure. And you're doing CPR on TikTok right
Thank
now.
you. I try.
Yeah, so I think that's really good. It sounds like a very small thing, like all ladies first, but I think that I think the small things make it's the biggest difference. So if a guy were to like open my door, I was in college one day and this guy I don't even know opened the door for me and I said thank you. He said my pleasure. I was like, "Whoa.
Ooh,
Am I in love? Wait a
he
second. Come back, sir. Who
he
are
hit you with
you?
the
Do you want to
famous
date me?"
he hit you
But
with that famous Chick-fil-A line.
I know. I'm like, "Do you work at Chick-fil-A or like are you in love with me? Like which one is it?"
Right. Yeah.
So, I just think it is the small things like just being kind like at the smallest level. So, ladies first, I think that's an awesome one to start with.
Hmm.
What do you think your next tip is?
I think the next one is be vigilant. Um, and that goes in line with protection. So always, I mean, first of all, you should always be vigilant and make sure that you're aware of your surroundings, but especially when you're with a lady, because you're not just watching out for yourself, but you now have someone else that you're with and that you should be watching out for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the next biggest one would probably be like the driving off. So this is after a date. Um, a lot of when I said this in the TikTok, a lot of people said you should actually walk her to the door. And I wanted to include that one, but that's based on her comfortability. So I
Right.
wouldn't say like you should walk her up to her front door because she might not be comfortable with you doing that. Now,
Right.
if she is, of course, yes, do so.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, don't drive off until she's completely in her house
Mm-hmm.
with the
Yeah.
door closed, because that way you know, okay, somebody's not about to come behind her or anything like that.
Right.
And I think that's a big one. That's a thing that people should do with friends that they care about.
Right. I was thinking like that's what me and my friends
Hmm.
do as well. And as we all know, like at the base of romantic relationships is friendship. So you
Hmm.
want to bring everything you're doing in your friendships into your romantic relationship as well. but I think you were saying like, was it a text or you just saying? I can't remember what the TikTok was. You were saying the text her when she got home, or what? What was that one?
Yeah, so I was saying, so if you two are in separate vehicles or separate ways of getting home, not just you dropping her off or you taking her home yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
should send a follow-up text or at least tell her, hey, text or call me when you get to your destination safely, just
Mm-hmm.
so that you know that that person is good and squared away.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm gonna keep saying this. Like, it's the small things.
It
That is
is.
so cute to text me, am I okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, you think like that's basic stuff, but like if a man did that, it's like, oh my gosh, he really cares about my safety.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, that's an awesome one. All right, what is your next one for us?
My next one. Um, hmm. This one's gonna sound kind of broad,
Okay.
but I do feel like gentlemen need to practice listening skills. I
What
feel
makes you
like
say that?
um observation. Um
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like I mean that's not just a gentleman thing, that's a people type of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, people don't like to listen to other people, or people will hear other people with the intent to respond as opposed
Mm,
to internalizing and really absorbing information that's being given to them.
yeah.
So I feel like if we practice listening to each other more, then we can find actual connections.
Right. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there was a recent TikTok that I was like, "Oh, you know what? That's really good." Can you think of one more for the people?
As far as gentleman tips,
Yeah.
hmm.
Could you put pretty like specific ones on TikTok sometimes?
Ooh, let's talk about hygiene.
Oh, yes, please.
That's a big one. Make sure that the hygiene is on point.
Mhm.
So that means brush your teeth, brush your tongue, wash
Yes.
yourself.
Everybody out there, please make sure you are brushing your tongue and your gums. I know it
Yes,
sounds weird, but do it. You need
yes.
to.
Even the lips if you got to.
Right. Yeah. Why not? They're there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Make sure you exfoliate. Hygiene. Make sure that your fingernails are clean.
Mhm.
A lot of men look past that and don't
Yeah,
want
and they
to.
need to stop
Yeah,
cuz
I'm not
that's not
saying I'm not saying you got to go to the salon and get a clear coat, but make sure you do not have just a whole bunch of dirt coated under your nails.
Mhm.
Um, oh, learn how to spray cologne. That's a big one.
Oh, well teach the men. What does that mean?
So,
Help them.
a lot of men, so with cologne, you're not supposed to just, it's not like Axe spray. So you're not supposed to shower your body with it. You're supposed to, I've seen different methods. So what I usually do, I'll spray the wrist two, maybe three times if it's not strong, rub it together, and then rub it on the neck. I've
Mhm.
seen where some men will take their lotion in the palm of their hand and spray it once or twice and then rub it and then rub it in. But
Okay.
it's only supposed to be where if someone's close to you, like in a hug or something like that, then they can smell it on you. It shouldn't be where you walk in the room and everyone smells it
Right.
automatically.
Cuz that's I mean, it's cute at first, but then it's blinding. Like I can't see or hear anything but your cologne. So, yeah, that's a great tip. Um Oh, you were also saying that men should know how to tie a tie. Why do you think that's important?
um, I feel like that's important corporately and depending on the event. So
Mhm.
of course, the end goal is always going to be marriage. That's yes.
Right.
So with
Amen.
that said, you're gonna have to know how to tie it there.
True.
Um, Different events throughout the life, be it job interviews, be it the job itself, because some jobs do have a dress code.
Mhm.
Um, be it a wedding, be it a funeral. There's gonna be some events in life that just do require a tie or some type of formal wear. So I just feel like it's important to learn how to dress for the occasion.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, and you know what we're gonna do? I think there's one more that I want to talk about, but I'm gonna save that for everyone on Patreon. So we're gonna have
Oh,
like
oh, you have a
two or
Patreon too?
I surely do.
Oh, I see you.
So we're gonna do like two or three tips for Patreon, but I think this is awesome that just literal practical things that men can be mindful of.
Hmm.
Because I know I had someone come on and talk about masculinity and how to be a man previously. So I think these practical tips will just help further their understanding, but also for girls that need to know what a gentleman looks like, or even I think it's important too to teach men things that they may not know as well. So if you're in a relationship with a guy and you've learned this and you're hearing this, you can send this to him, or even just have a conversation and say like, it means really a lot to me if you maybe you just started texting me when I get home, or
Hmm.
um what was the other one? Completely forgot it, but you guys know he said all of them, they're in here.
Hmm.
Just letting him know what's important to you. Oh, I was going to say opening the door, just remembering
Oh,
that ladies go
absolutely.
first, stuff like that. So
And ladies, or in men, when these ladies let you know, whatever they let you know, that goes back to listening. Make sure that you're receiving that.
yes, because we don't need arguments in a healthy conversation. That's
Oh, no, no,
unnecessary. So
no.
that's a really good tip as well. So yes, thank you, Christian, for coming on the podcast.
Oh, no
um,
problem.
as you guys know, you can catch up with the Parallel at the Parallel Pod on Instagram. And you have access to more things if you join our Patreon as well. As you guys know, always remember to speak the truth in love. Bye.
Adios.